Red Bull did not just have a bad qualifying in Barcelona. It had its weakness exposed. Because when Max Verstappen says the car has no grip, no balance, rear instability, and time vanishing in the corners, that is not a normal complaint. That is a driver who built Red Bull's dynasty telling the team the machine underneath him may be fundamentally wrong. And Barcelona is the worst track for that message, because Barcelona does not hide problems. It reveals them. The Red Bull is overweight. The setup window is too narrow. The car struggles over curbs. Ferrari has surged ahead with Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes is pulling clear. McLaren is close enough to punish every mistake. And now Verstappen's radio has turned Red Bull's private crisis into a public alarm. Max is not just fighting rivals anymore. He is fighting the car. And if Red Bull cannot fix that fast, this will not be remembered as another difficult Saturday. It will be remembered as a moment their dynasty started to melt down. Subscribe to the channel. The first layer of this meltdown is not the result. It is the pattern. Because if Barcelona were the only difficult weekend for Red Bull, the team could explain it away. They could talk about track temperature. They could talk about tire preparation. They could talk about one setup choice that went in the wrong direction. They could say the car simply missed a window for one session. Formula One teams do that all the time. But Red Bull cannot hide behind that explanation anymore. The same problems have followed them from race to race. And the same driver keeps saying the same things in different ways. No grip, no balance, rear instability, time lost in the corners. That is why Barcelona felt so serious. It was not a new wound. It was an old wound opening again at a track that shows the truth. Barcelona is one of those circuits that asks the car to prove it is complete. It is not enough to be fast on the straights. It is not enough to be strong in one slow corner. The car needs rhythm, stability, tire control, a rear end the driver can trust, a front end that responds when the driver commits. If a car has balance, Barcelona rewards it. If a car is hiding problems, Barcelona exposes them. And Red Bull was exposed. That is why Verstappen's radio mattered so much. Max does not need a perfect car. He does not need something soft or easy. He has spent years making sharp Red Bulls look unstoppable. He can live with aggression. He can live with a car that demands precision. But he cannot fully attack a car that does not tell him the truth. That is the difference. A difficult car can still be trusted. An unpredictable car cannot. And when a Formula One driver loses trust, the lap time disappears before the mistake becomes obvious. He brakes a little earlier. He waits a little longer before throttle. He leaves a little more margin over a curb. He stops attacking the lap and starts protecting it. That is deadly in qualifying, because qualifying is not about safety. It is about commitment. One lap, one chance. Every corner connected to the next. The driver has to believe the car will answer before the car actually proves it. Verstappen's message suggested that belief is not there. And for Red Bull, that is the real alarm. Because this is not coming from a driver who cannot handle pressure. This is a four-time world champion. This is a driver who carried Red Bull through its most dominant years. This is a driver who has made difficult cars look faster than they really were. If he is saying the car has no balance, Red Bull has to listen. If he is saying the grip is missing, Red Bull has to listen. If he is saying the rear is unstable, Red Bull has to listen. Because Max is not just complaining. He is describing the limit of the car. And the limit looks much lower than Red Bull expected. The weight problem makes that limit even more worrying. The car has been described as 6 to 7 kilograms above the minimum threshold. That sounds small to anyone outside the sport, but in Formula One, it is a constant punishment. The car carries an extra mass through every braking zone, every corner entry, every direction change, every tire stint. It is like asking a sprinter to race with a backpack, then wondering why the first step is not as sharp. The reported cost is around 0.2 of a second per lap, and 0.2 at this level is not a detail. It can change the entire shape of a weekend. It can push a car out of the fight for pole. It can leave a driver stuck behind rivals. It can turn a race from controlled to reactive, but the weight is only one piece of the problem. That is what makes this so dangerous. More weight stresses the tires. Stressed tires lose grip. Less grip makes the balance harder to control. Poor balance makes the rear more nervous. A nervous rear forces Verstappen to hesitate, and hesitation costs more time. That chain is what Red Bull is fighting. Not one issue, a chain. And chains are hard to break because every link pulls on the next. If Red Bull changes the setup to protect the rear, it might lose front response. If it improves curb behavior, it might lose performance in high-speed corners. If it chases more stability, it might make the car less sharp. If it removes weight, it may need time, structure, and compromises that do not arrive overnight. That is why the team cannot solve this with one magic adjustment. The problem looks deeper. And Barcelona made that clear because the track punished every weak link at once. This is where the meltdown becomes more than an emotional word. It becomes a competitive reality. Red Bull is no longer operating from control. It is operating from uncertainty. The team does not just need to find more lap time. It needs to understand why the car does not give Verstappen the same confidence that previous Red Bulls gave him. That is a much harder question, because confidence is not found in one data column. It is built corner by corner. The rear has to behave. The grip has to arrive. The car has to respond consistently. The driver has to feel that when he commits, the car will not surprise him. Right now, Verstappen's radio suggests that feeling is missing. And when that feeling is missing, every part of the weekend becomes harder. Practice becomes a search. Qualifying becomes a risk. The race becomes damage control. Strategy becomes reactive. Tire management becomes more fragile. And the driver's frustration becomes public. That is exactly what Red Bull did not want, because the rest of the paddock is listening. Ferrari hears it. Mercedes hears it. McLaren hears it. They all know what it means when Verstappen is not confident in the car. They know Red Bull is vulnerable. They know the team that once forced everyone else to react is now reacting itself. That shift is enormous. For years, rivals arrived at races expecting Red Bull to be the reference. Now they arrive knowing Red Bull has questions it cannot answer quickly enough. That changes how teams attack them. Ferrari can push harder because it believes Red Bull is wounded. Mercedes can race with more confidence because the championship picture supports it. McLaren can treat every Red Bull weakness as an opening, and Verstappen is left trying to hold the line, while the car keeps giving him reasons to doubt. That is why Barcelona matters so much. It was not just another difficult Saturday. It was a signal that Red Bull's problems are not hidden anymore. The car is heavy. The balance is fragile. The rear does not sound trustworthy. The operating window is too narrow. The driver is frustrated. The rivals are moving ahead. And the most alarming part is that these problems are connected. That is what turns a setback into a crisis. A single weakness can be fixed. A connected weakness can define a season. And if Red Bull cannot break that chain quickly, then Barcelona may not be remembered as the weekend where Verstappen simply had a bad qualifying. It may be remembered as the weekend where everyone finally understood the scale of the problem. Because Max Verstappen is not just fighting for lap time. He is fighting to believe in the car again. And until Red Bull give him a machine he can trust, every radio message will sound less like frustration and more like evidence. But the next layer is where Red Bull's problem becomes even more dangerous. Because once a car's weaknesses start connecting, the team is no longer just chasing speed. It is chasing understanding. That sounds simple, but in Formula One, understanding is everything. A slow car with a clear problem can be developed. A difficult car with a clear direction can be improved. But a car that keeps giving the driver the same bad feeling, even after the team has had time to work on it, creates a different kind of fear. The fear that the team is treating symptoms, not the cause. That is what Barcelona raised. Because Verstappen has not just been saying the car needs a little more pace. He has been describing the way it behaves. No grip, no balance, rear instability, problems over curves, time disappearing through the corners. Those details matter because they point toward the car's character. And character is much harder to change than setup. A setup can be adjusted. Wing levels can change. Suspension settings can change. Tire preparation can change. The team can move the car toward one end of the balance or the other. But character is different. Character is how the car naturally wants to behave. Does it rotate cleanly? Does the rear stay predictable? Does the grip arrive progressively? Does the car accept curbs? Does it give the driver the same answer from one lap to the next? That is what Verstappen is really judging. And right now, his radio suggests the answer is not good enough. This is where Red Bull's situation becomes frightening. Because Verstappen is not an ordinary benchmark. He can drive around problems that would bury other drivers. He can live with a car that feels aggressive. He can control a machine that sits right on the edge, as long as the edge is clear. So if Max is repeatedly saying the car lacks grip and balance, the problem is not that the car is uncomfortable. The problem is that the car may not be giving him a usable limit. And without a usable limit, the driver cannot fully attack. That is where the lap time really disappears. Not in one dramatic spin. Not in one massive mistake. It disappears through caution that the driver never wanted to use. A little less speed into a long corner. A little less confidence on the throttle. A little less curb. A little more steering correction. And suddenly, the lap is gone. That is why Barcelona hurt Red Bull so much. Because on a track like that, you cannot fake confidence. The corners are too long. The tires are loaded too heavily. The balance has to stay with the driver for several seconds at a time. If the rear feels unstable, there is nowhere to hide. You feel it, every meter. And if Verstappen feels it, Red Bull has a problem that no public statement can soften. The team may say the data is useful. It may say the direction is clear. It may say improvements are coming. But the driver's voice cuts through all of that because the driver is the final censor. The car can look better in simulation, but if Verstappen still cannot trust it, the improvement is not enough. That is the brutal reality. And this is why Red Bull's development path now carries so much pressure. They do not just need more downforce. They do not just need less weight. They do not just need better tire life. They need all of those things to work together in a way that changes the feeling of the car. That is much harder. If Red Bull removes weight, but the rear remains unstable, Max still cannot attack. If Red Bull calms the rear but loses the sharp front response he needs, the car becomes safer but slower. If Red Bull improves curb performance but damages high-speed balance, the problem simply moves to another part of the lap. If Red Bull widens the setup window but cannot match Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren on raw pace, the team is still chasing. That is why this is not a simple comeback story. It is a technical rescue mission. And rescue missions are messy. They demand fast decisions, but fast decisions can create compromises. They demand aggressive upgrades, but aggressive upgrades can create new problems. They demand confidence, but confidence is the very thing the team is trying to rebuild.